balance. And I've been to yoga classes where they say, like, we're focusing on hamstrings, and all we do is hamstring stretch, or hip openers, and all we do is hip stretching, lotus poses and things like that. And I really don't enjoy those classes very much. I like the variety, and to me, that's one of the best things about a yoga practice is we move in all three planes of motion. The whole body gets to move. We're breathing in sort of 360 directions. So we will focus on balance, but it'll be couched in a more balanced practice as well. And so the emphasis will be on the balance, and I will be bringing some of the things that you might not think of as balance back to the emphasis of that. So as far as props go, we need a blanket or a towel today. And if you don't have that with you, you can be folding up the yoga mat. We're actually going to be using it for cushioning to challenge our balance. I have the strap here, but this is mostly for quad stretch. So if you struggle to get the foot or if it's painful, you're going to grab a strap for that purpose. And you might want the yoga blocks. Sometimes they're helpful in some of the transitions, or you might be using them to prop during the practice, but it's not necessary to have them here. So we're actually starting in a seated position today, which I don't normally do in this practice, but I'm going to use my blanket to elevate my hips, elevate my seat here. So I'm sitting in a cross-legged position, which might be a good option for you. You could be sitting back on your heels or sitting on the shins as I was doing just before this, or you could be in a straddle position with the legs out. If it's a struggle for you to sit on the floor, no matter the propping or the leg positioning, then I would suggest that you sit perched on the front edge of a chair, and not a rolling chair, because we'll be moving and that chair might roll out from underneath you. If you are sitting on a chair, you're sitting right on the front of the chair so that your feet can be flat and your back is not supported by the back of the chair. Getting comfortable here, letting your hands come to rest on your knees or your thighs. Maybe just take a moment, notice where those shoulders are. Often mine are sort of riding up towards my ears. So taking an inhale and your exhale, allow the shoulders to fall away from your ears. Maybe even see if you can feel the shoulder blades making connection on your back body, on the back of the ribs. You might choose to close your eyes if that's comfortable, but keeping them open is fine. Take a moment here, begin to bring the attention to your breath. And since I often begin the practices lying face up, talk about feeling the breath in the belly and the rib cage. But perhaps here you can notice the breath expanding the body in all directions. So not just the belly, not just the front ribs, but the side ribs, the back ribs. Maybe you feel the inhale in the low back. Maybe you can even feel the subtle movement of the shoulder blades. So as you breathe in, the shoulder blades moving away from each other. As you breathe out and release, the shoulder blades move inward towards the spine, downward towards the waist. Breathing through the nose. And start to lengthen out, slow down your breathing. Do you have the sensation of the breath in your body? Can you feel the breath as it passes over the back of your throat? Maybe you can hear the breath, that sound as the breath passes over the back of your throat, sort of like a distant ocean sound. Can use the anchor, any of, or the breath as an anchor, any of the sensations of the breath, bringing your focus back to it so you can stay present with the breath. This allows you, or maybe that's not even the right word, this is sort of a prompt or a cue to come into the present moment. If you can stay with the breath, then you can be in the here and now. On your next inhale, sit up taller, reach the top of the head towards the ceiling. As you exhale, relax the muscles of the face, your shoulders, your hips, but keep that length in the spine. Setting an intention. You could come into a hand position here that might be helpful for the attention. You could bring your palms together, thumbs pressed into the breastbone, or maybe hands right here over the center of your chest, one over the other. Setting an intention for your practice. So maybe you keep it simple. It's about staying present, staying with the breath. But if you have a specific reason for being here, bring this thought to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. Letting your hands go, opening the eyes here, and we're going to begin to move the spine a little bit. But before we do that, I think somebody broke through the mute, so just check and make sure you're muted, just so that you don't end up on the recording. So we're starting with some seated cat and cow movements. You could start with the hands on the knees or even the thighs. Inhaling, lift the breastbone, bring that gaze up a little bit. And then we let the back round on the exhale. So you drop your chin, back rounds, maybe even tuck the tailbone under a bit. And then back and forth between those two. Inhaling to lift the breastbone, feel the collarbones broaden, gaze up a little. Exhale, rounding the back so your spine sort of forms the letter C here. Let's do a few more like that. Notice that I am moving in coordination with my breath. I have that lengthened breath, so my movement is lengthened out. And I've been looking at some of those videos of myself without the sound on, and I'm like, is it in slow motion? Did the video slow down? And I just realized like I'm actually moving that slowly. Um, and on purpose so that I can really appreciate every little angle of movement here. Coming up to an upright position, placing one hand down on the floor, we're leaning into it, and reach the other arm up and over. Now you want to keep both hips down, grounded on the floor. If you want a little more side bend, side stretch, bend through that supporting elbow. We come back up through center, other hand down. Inhale, reach up and over, both sitting bones staying grounded. Inhale through center, exhale into that side stretch. If the wrist pressure doesn't feel good, you could come down on tented fingers for this one. And maybe you even want to try that yourself. We've done that sometimes in the regular hands and knees cat and cow to work on hand strength. Grip strength. We work on strengthening the muscles in the palm of the hand. When those are stronger, it can take pressure off the wrist and shoulders and actually help with alignment of those joints. We're going to pause here in that side bend and add a little rib cage rotation. So you're rotating ribs and gaze down towards the floor, and then rotate ribs and gaze up towards the ceiling. So exhale, rotating, gaze, ribs towards the floor. Inhaling to rotate up. One more. And coming up and then switching sides. So we pause in that side bend and then add that rib cage rotation. Inhale, ribs, front ribs and gaze up. Exhale, front ribs and gaze down towards the floor. Let's do 2 or 3 more. We'll come up here to that upright position. Take a couple of backward shoulder rolls here. And we are making our way onto hands and knees. You might want to pad your knees. We're doing several poses with one or both knees down. Coming into a tabletop position. So knees are under hips, wrists are under shoulders, and we are weight bearing through the upper body here. So remember some options you could take if that flat palm position doesn't work. Loose fist, forearms on the floor or blocks, so there's no pressure on the hands. And we are coming into a bird dog. So this is core strength, and I always call it bird dog, but I've heard this also called spinal balance, where we're actually using a lot of spinal muscles to balance as we take some of the support away. I'm going to use my block here, and this is just some biofeedback, feedback about, am I keeping my hips stable and level? So I'm placing this block here on my sacrum. So it's not on my low back, but just below the low back here, kind of back of the hips, back of the pelvis. And I want my spine long, so I'm thinking about lengthening my tailbone towards the back wall, top of the head towards the front wall. I want my abdominal muscles supporting me here, so make a solid wall of your abdominal muscles. So having the block here, and you could just pretend it's there if you don't have it, having the block here is to, well, the idea is to not let it fall as we lift a leg and the arm. So we're lifting one leg straight back, toes point down. Now you could keep it at just leg lifting, or raise the opposite arm forward with the thumb up. Now notice that I'm keeping my gaze down as opposed to looking forward here because I want that spine long. Lower the hand and lower the knee. Sometimes that's the tricky part, not letting the block fall. We inhale, lift the other leg back, toes point down. Maybe you add the opposite arm reaching forward, thumb up. And then we exhale, lower back down. And we're alternating sides. So we inhale to lift and reach out, and we exhale to lower. And again, mindful of the transition. So for me, it's the lowering back down where I have to be really engaging my core, trying to work on keeping my hips stable so that yoga block doesn't fall off. So the balance here is we start in that tabletop with 4 supports, and then we take 1 or 2 of them away, and we're having to work to balance. So notice that the core, spinal muscles, hip stabilizers have a lot to do with balance. All right, lowering the hand, lowering the knee, taking that block off. Hopefully it didn't fall here. And you could sit back in a child's or puppy pose. So child's pose is hips over the heels, forehead coming down to rest. Puppy pose is hips over knees, forehead coming down to rest on the floor, stacked hands or yoga block. Just taking a little break here. Finding that lengthened breath. And just remember that throughout the practice, you might change things up to make it work better for you or better for what your goals are, or an injury that you are being mindful of. Keeping in mind nothing should be painful or uncomfortable. Those are reasons to modify, change the practice. And listen for some of those modifications, alternatives that I offer during the practice. And an alternative could be resting position. So we're going to do a little sequence of moves starting and ending in this child's or puppy pose. Stretch your arms forward, and we're lifting the head, the torso, shifting this into a knee down plank position. So think straight line from the knees to the top of the head, and keep that plank but lower down, meaning keep your core engaged and not let the back sag as you lower all the way down. Pull the shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist to peel the head and chest up off the ground. The neck is long. And then we push with the hands, pull the low belly in. It's the powerful mover for pushing the hips back into that child's or puppy pose. We're going to do that again. So we inhale, lift the head and chest, shifting forward into the knee down plank, long through the spine. Exhale, lower the core, stays engaged, hips are stabilizing. Shoulder blades towards the spine, the back waist to lift head, chest for low cobra. Maybe a bigger back bend, pressing the lower ribs off the ground. Pull that low belly in, push the hips back, find the child's or puppy pose. One more, maybe a bigger back bend this time. Inhale, shifting forward. Exhale, lower. Elbows are by the ribs instead of push-up style. Shoulders back, down, lift head, chest. That's low cobra. Maybe you lift the lower ribs. Maybe you lift the lower belly, but there's no reason to force the spine into that position. Neck is long. Low belly pulls in to push the hips back, head down. Find that child's or puppy. Take a breath. Get in that core to wake up here. Coming back into that hands and knees. Now, I'm going to use a yoga block for this. You don't have to have it. It just kind of keeps the hips and shoulders closer to the same height. Coming into another version of tabletop, another version of bird dog, knees under hips again. And I'm bringing my right forearm down on the yoga block, but it could be forearm on the floor. Elbow is underneath the shoulder. And find that length in the spine again, top of the head and tailbone reaching away from each other, firming your belly here. That's going to help. We're reaching the right leg back, toes point straight down. Keep the hips level. Imagine you had that yoga block on your sacrum. And then the free hand, that left hand, we're reaching it back. So it's reaching in the same direction as my leg. Actively reach it back so you feel your neck get longer. Push the floor away or that block away with that right forearm. Take another breath. Maybe you're a little wobbly here, but work towards being steady. All right, lower the hand, lower the knee, maybe a few cat-cows or a wag of the tail, shake of the head. Of course, the other side. So now I'm having my left forearm come down, elbow under shoulder. Find that length in the spine, top of head and tailbone reaching away from each other. It's left leg back, toes point down. Trying to keep those hips stable. You could stay here. You don't have to add that right arm reaching back, but if you are, it's actively reaching back. So you're not sunk in that left shoulder. Your neck goes long. You push the floor away with that left arm. Breathe. So look at how much your core strength has to do with balance here. And we'll see this as we come up to standing poses too. Lower that hand and lower the knee. Take a few cat-cows or wag of the tail. Or shift a little side to side. Make it organic. Just a little freestyle part of the practice here. And eventually coming back, hands and knees, or you could be on your forearms here as we do the toe rocking movement. So 1 foot back, toes tucked under. I'm shifting forward so those back toes bend and then press the heel back for the calf stretch. So forward on the inhale, shifting the heel back on the exhale. A few more here. This is one of the main ones that my body needs in the morning when I'm first waking up. My ankles, toes, my feet are really stiff. This is the one that gives me almost the most freedom of movement right away. And I'll shift and do the other side. And we do this from hands and knees. You could do this from standing. We have 1 foot back and shifting forward, that toe rocking movement from a standing position. All right, we're lowering that knee back down. I'm setting us up for down dog. It's a challenging pose for lots of reasons, and you might need to take a break after a few breaths. You might stay with the toe rocking movement and work on opening up the backs of the legs that way, or hands a little forward to shoulders, fingers spread, hips up and back. Find that length in the spine. right? Prioritize the spine being long and not rounded, over straightening the knees or heels to the floor. So might be a little bend to the knees here so your hips can reach up and back. The head can relax between the upper arms. And take a moment, maybe pedaling the feet or lifting and lowering the heels. Take a few more rounds of breath, a few more movements. Eventually settling into that down dog, looking forward, we're stepping the left foot between the hands. If it doesn't get there on the first go, lower that right knee, left hand helping that foot come forward. Set it up so the ankle is underneath the knee. Hands on that front thigh, back knee is down. Hands on that front thigh to lift the torso here into this upright position. So for some of us, this is already balance, especially if your back foot is not so comfortable being in that kind of flat top of the foot position or the toes tucked position, but maybe practice and see what is helpful there. You might have a hand on the wall or steadying yourself on a piece of furniture. But we're going to work on that length in the spine again. So this is, you'll find, and most of you already know, you've done practices with me, that I cue this often, is the tailbone down and the top of the head up. And one of the reasons for cueing that is that what happens is I stack my head over my shoulders over my hips in this instance. And when we're standing, it'll be over the ankles. But you're stacking one thing on top of the other, which is going to help you with balance. And then for this reason, we're creating space between the vertebrae because we're going to start to move the spine. But the movement is from the belly button and above, or maybe even a little bit above the belly button. You could bring your hands behind your head, interlace fingers, or holding elbows overhead. Reach those elbows up even more so we create more space in the waist. I'm circling the upper body, so leaning a little towards the left and forward, and then towards the right and into the upright position. So we inhale, lean to the left and forward, exhale to the right and up. I'm doing two more. So if the movement is coming from the belly, above the belly button, like rib cage area and above, that means for most of us, our center of gravity is roughly behind the belly button. And if we can keep that center of gravity steady, it's a little easier to balance. We're releasing the arms here, hands to the floor around the front foot, and we're stepping, or actually sweeping that left leg up and back into a three-legged down dog. Head relaxed between the upper arms. Circle that lifted foot, and then lower it down. Looking forward, right foot between the hands. Help it get there. There's no rush. We're lowering that back knee. So find yourself where that right ankle is below the right knee. Lift the torso here, maybe kind of climbing up, hands on the thigh or hands on the wall. Find your balance. If you struggle with this, remember your vision has a big part to play in your balance. So you focus your gaze on a non-moving spot straight ahead. Tailbone down towards the earth, top of the head reaching up. So that alignment piece that helps with balance, but also creating space between the vertebrae here. Shoulders relaxed. Breathe. You could do hands behind the head, fingers interlaced, or hold elbows, depending on shoulders and neck. Lengthen the elbows up more. Make more space in the waist. So the steadiness, right? We're not moving so much from the ribs and below. This time we'll lean a little towards the right and then forward and then to the left and upright. Inhale to the right and forward. Exhale to the left and upright. Two more. Right? And maybe you're wondering, why are we focusing on balance for this Yoga for Rowers class? Well, your balance has a lot to do with steadying the boat and keeping it going straight. Coming into that upright position, we'll release the hands around that front foot. We're stepping the back foot to the front foot to find a forward fold position. A little bend to the knees, upper body draped over the lower body. or this more protective position for the spine. Butt back forearms on the thighs. Here the spine stays long and there's no compression. Maybe you sway a little forward back or side to side. If you're in that ragdoll version, maybe holding elbows or backs of the hands resting on the floor or yoga blocks. Shake the head out. And I'm realizing that I forgot to do that three-legged dog on the other side. So bring your weight shift back to center, feet under the hips, bend the knees, and then have you step the left foot back. And then we're sweeping that right leg up and back. Here's that three-legged dog. Circle that lifted ankle. And then lower the foot down to the floor, so in a regular down dog. Bend the knees enough, or as much as you need to. Walk your hands back so the heels come down. Knees bent, look forward, strong legs come up to stand. Take a couple of backward shoulder rolls here at the top of that movement. Moving that blanket out of the way if it's on your yoga mat. We are coming into mountain pose. So mountain pose in yoga is usually something we just kind of briefly go through, or we're there for half a breath, or it's where we go in between after doing warriors on one side and before we go to the other side. We're going to take a moment and focus on it here a little bit, because again, it has to do with that lengthening of the spine, stacking head over joints, over feet, and also activation of some of the muscles in your feet, in your pelvis, in your pelvic floor, and in your core as well. So we're coming into it, we're entering it a little bit differently. So we're starting with our feet about shoulder distance apart. I'm going to turn so you can see me from my profile here. Put a little bend in the knees and the hips. So imagine you're sitting atop a horse. Could be a little bit more knee bend, but it doesn't have to be much. Feet are in the stirrups, that slight knee bend. And we're having to sit up tall, but it's not about head back, shoulders back, belly in, because that's unsustainable. And if you're on a horse, it's going to respond to your tension by being more tense or not going the way you want it to. We're lengthening the tailbone straight down towards the earth. This is very subtle. So it's not a big tuck under. It's not the tailbone back. It's straight down. You might feel the lower core engaging here. Reach the top of the head up. Relax the shoulders. Breathe. Keep the length in the spine, but straighten the knees. And then walk the feet in so they're underneath your hips, or more normal stance. Now, if you squeeze everything, if all your effort is 100%, dial it back to 50 or 60% effort here. So you're still thinking tailbone down, top of the head up. Notice, did your butt cheeks clench? If they did, keep everything the same, but relax the butt cheeks. If that was you, and you're able to relax the butt cheeks, you might feel the work shift to some of the pelvic floor muscles. Breathe. Feeling your feet. Maybe your arches are a little bit more lifted up off the floor. Notice how tall, stable, strong you feel. Remember that feeling, and then let this go. I don't know if you can see what happened with me. I went into a little bit of a forward head position. I ended up with too much arch in my low back. I've lost my core here. But if I go back into that 50, 60% effort, tailbone down, top of the head up, you can see my head comes back over my shoulders. My ears go over my shoulders. My shoulders are over my hips. My hips are over my ankles. And that's going to help with balance. All right, shake it out. Roll the shoulders. Come on up to the front of your mat and take a big step back with this left foot. Pivot that heel down. So my left toes are pointing out towards the side, but my right toes towards the front, and this warrior two. So that right knee, front knee bent. Again, we find that length in the spine, the tailbone down, the top of the head up. Not only does that stack structure over structure in the body, it engages these muscles that wrap around the waist and ones that go up the spine and keep our spine erect. And then from here, Reaching the arms forward and back, shoulders released away from the ears. So lower body is staying relatively stable, and we're moving from the ribs and above as we shift the rib cage forward over the front leg. And then we shift the rib cage back over the hips. So we inhale, shift forward, rib cage forward. Exhale, shift the rib cage over the hips. Do this a few more times. It's almost as if somebody were pulling your front hand forward, but your feet are stuck. And then someone pulled your back hand, pulling you back. One more time, shift forward. Pause here, back hand to the hip. Option for the front hand on the thigh or the forearm on the thigh. The leverage of the arm against the leg is going to help you open that chest and gaze here towards that side. Reach this left arm up. So you could stay right here in this side angle, working on balance. We're going to challenge the balance because we're turning the head here, so being careful with this. We're threading the needle with this lifted arm. So this left arm is going to come down between the thigh and the arm. Bring the gaze down towards your front foot, that right foot, and then inhale, sweep the arm up. And my head's turning to follow that arm. So we exhale, thread it underneath. Inhale, opening up. Couple more here. So turning the head, start to mess with the inner ear a little bit, making it a little harder to balance. And then turning the head, we don't have a constant visual feedback, so we can't keep our gaze focused here. You might feel that little bit more work in the feet. All right, strong legs. Inhale, rise up to stand. And then bring both hands down around that front foot. Back heel up. Step this back into a plank. You could hold here. You could go directly to down dog, or this flow through similar to what we did earlier. Knees down or up. You could go all the way down as we did before, or come halfway down where ribs are by your elbows are by your ribs. Untuck the toes, finding a version of cobra, or here's up dog, where your knees, your hips are off the floor, the chest is forward, shoulder blades firmly on the back ribs. And then we tuck the toes, pull that low belly in to shift your hips up and back into a down dog. Bend your knees, look forward. You could take 100 or 3 or 4 steps forward or hop to the front of your mat. Bend the knees, strong legs. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, hands to prayer. Let it go. Shake out the arms, roll the shoulders. We're going to do this on the other side. I'm going to have you stay where you are at the front of the mat. I'm changing which is the front of my mat so my back doesn't end up to you. This time it's right foot back. Pivot the heel down. Here we are in that warrior two. Front knee bent, that left knee bent. Find that length in the spine, stacking the body. Tailbone down, top of the head is reaching up. Arms reaching forward and back. You could gaze over the front hand here. We're shifting the rib cage forward. Lower body stays in place. And then we shift the rib cage over the hips again. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, shift it back. Couple more. We shift forward one more time. Pause. Back hand to the hip, forearm, or hand to that front thigh. Leverage against the leg to open the chest more. Top arm up. You could stay here. Try not to sink into that bottom shoulder, but neck stays long. And threading the needle. This can challenge the balance because we're turning the head. So being careful here. Exhale, thread that right arm under the left, above the thigh. Inhale, sweep out, open up. Let's do 3 more. We lift up and lift ourselves back into that warrior two. And then from here, bring both hands down around that front foot. Your back heel pivots up. And we're stepping the back foot to the front foot. Bend the knees, Strong legs to rise up. You could reach up or roll those shoulders back and down on the top of the movement. Shake it out. Reset here. So we're going to do a little bit here with our feet and our toes. And if you haven't done these types of exercises, some people call it toe yoga. And that's really, yogis don't call it that as much as like chiropractors, physical therapists who are prescribing these exercises. But the idea is to, multiple reasons. Increase the strength in the arches of the feet, create more space between the toes, which widens your base of support, helping with balance, but also becoming aware, focusing on the proprioception, your ability to feel what your body is doing without having the visual feedback confirming what it's doing. So we are starting with our feet about hip distance apart. I'd like you to lift all 10 toes. And lifting the toes, but not the balls of my feet. Spread the toes out. Place them down one at a time. Start with your little toe and then go one toe at a time till the big toes are the last ones to come down. We do that again. We lift all 10 toes, spread them out, placing them down, spread out, one toe lowers at a time. Now, make sure you're breathing. Keep going. Notice that the shoulders kind of right up. Even if you're challenged by this, it's hard to differentiate the movement in the toes. Try doing it without looking. So look straight ahead, like again, focusing on the spot with balance. And regardless of whether you're successful with the movement of your toes, notice that you came into this mountain pose, and I didn't even cue the tailbone down, top of the head up. So this is activation from the arches of the feet. The arches are lifting away from the floor, and it's translating all the way up, that crown of the head reaching towards the sky, towards the ceiling. So not a bad exercise to help with posture, but I also prescribe this exercise to my clients with plantar fasciitis, tendonitis. So we strengthen the muscles that support the arches of the feet. All right, let this go. Shake out your legs a little bit. So we're coming into balance, standing on one leg. I'm going to give you option to have the toes down. We're coming into 3 different variations of tree pose. A regular one, and then we're going to add some complexities to the other ones. So you might, the complexity ones are challenged. By complexity, I mean challenge, overlaid on a tree pose. You might want to be at the wall or a steady piece of furniture, or you might come off the yoga mat for a less squishy surface. So regular tree pose, we're going to bring 1 foot forward, spread those toes just like we did in that exercise. Shift your weight onto the foot. And then let's start in that kickstand version. So toe down, heel just above the ankle, focusing the gaze on a non-moving spot, tailbone down, top of the head up. So pause here and just look. Without my tailbone down, top of the head up, my hips slung out to the right, my shoulders over to the left, my head's over to the right. But if I just think tailbone down, top of the head up, everything aligns, and that's going to help me with balance. You could stay with toes down, or bring that foot somewhere up on the leg, or pull it up to the inner thigh, but don't worry about getting it higher up. Palms come together, and you're gently pressing palms into each other, gently, or maybe more forcefully press the foot and the leg into each other. Breathe. Let this go. Shake it out. Roll the shoulders. Other side. Bring that foot forward, toes spread. Shift the weight onto it. Let's start in that kickstand version first. Right? So without me thinking about it, that hip wants to go out. So tailbone down, top of the head up. Maybe you slide that foot up. No, you could always put the foot back down. Palms together, gently pressing them together. Focus gaze. Press the foot and inner leg into each other. So the force is coming towards midline, which will help you balance. You might feel all those little movement in the foot and the ankle. It's supposed to happen. All right, let it go. Shake it out. Roll the shoulders. Okay, here's the complex, the harder, more challenging part. So often I say step off your mat for a less squishy surface because that makes it easier. If you did that, maybe step back on your yoga mat. If you were already on your yoga mat and you want extra challenge, I'm going to have you stand on a folded blanket or towel. The squishier your surface, the longer it takes for the feedback of where the pressure is on your foot to get up. It's really just getting to the spinal cord and you're reflexively reacting, but we're training that. So I'm coming on that more squishy surface, spreading the toes. You could start in that toe down version, and that may be as far as you go with the squishy surface. Tailbone down, top of the head up, gaze focus. Stay here or slide that foot up. Palms meet, gently press into each other. Foot and inner thigh pressing towards midline. Relax the shoulders, breathe. I'm feeling my foot and ankle having to work a lot harder here. All right, let it go. Shake it out. Other side. Toes spread. Weight onto it. Start in that kickstand version first. Focus gaze. Spinal lengthening. Palms meet, gently press. Maybe the foot stays here or you bring it up. Then you can always put that foot down or you bring it up higher. Press the foot into the inner leg, leg into the inner foot. Breathe, relax the shoulders, focused gaze. In yoga, the focused gaze is called the drishti. That's a Sanskrit. Physical therapy, we call it gaze stabilization. When we're working on people with balance and inner ear issues or vertigo. All right, let this go. Shake it out, walk it off. All right, take that blanket out of the way. We're going to be balancing on solid ground, but we're going to try turning the head. So this could be really challenging. Remember, you might want to have that wall right at your side or the chair, back of the chair there. All right, so bring one foot forward, spread those toes, weight onto it, start in the toe down version. Spinal lengthening, focus gaze. You might want to have your hands out here or you could bring them in. Let's start with the toes down. Now, we're not going to be able to keep the gaze focused because you're turning your head side to side. Breathe. Bring the head back to center. Decide whether you want to stay with the toes down or bring that foot up. Ooh, and then maybe try it. Oh my goodness. I can't turn my head quite as far and I'm having to go slower. And boy, is that foot and ankle having to work really hard. And my core. All right, let it go. Shake it out. One last one. One last one. I swear. Foot forward, spread the toes, shift your weight onto it. Kickstand version first. Tailbone down, top of the head up. Maybe arms are out here to kind of balance like tightrope or palms together. Stay with the toes down. Try the head turn. Breathe. Gosh, I can tell how hard it's already working. I'm going to struggle with this one, I know. Maybe you slide that foot up. I did better than I thought. All right, let it go. Shake it out. Roll the shoulders. All right, come on up to the front of the mat. Inhale, get taller, reach up, spread your fingers, take up space. Exhale, find your forward fold, forearms to thighs, protective of herniated disc, low bone density, or that forward fold of the ragdoll. Take a couple breaths, sway a little bit, shake the head. Walk, bring the hands down to the floor, walking the feet back into a down dog. Lower both knees, untucking your toes. Find child's or puppy pose. Forehead resting on the floor, stacked hands, maybe a yoga block, or another resting position. It could be seated, it could be lying down. Slowing that breathing down, coming back to your intention for the breath. Just that little explanation, the head turning part. Again, sort of throwing the balance off. It's starting to mess with the inner ear a little bit. So your feedback from the inner ear is not as fast And then often our feet have to work harder to find the purchase, right? So we press in like at the big toe and then the outer toe and then the heel and the ankle and lower leg are working really hard because they're trying to get more feedback as to where you are in space. Because the inner ear, when you turn your head, just has to work a little harder, and then you don't have that constant visual feedback, so having to work a little harder there too. And in the boat, especially if you're in a single, having to look behind you to make sure you're going straight. But it could be even the slight little shifts of weight left and right in the boat that you're having to correct, even if you're not in a single. We'll come back up here, and I'm going to set up for a version of side plank with maybe an option for a tree pose in the side plank. So we're coming here to hands and knees, and I'll have you stretch your left leg back and then pivot your right foot and shin to the right side. So my right shin is perpendicular to the mat. My left foot goes flat. My left toes point towards that left side, and the left arm is up here. So this is one option right here, keeping that bottom knee down. Or you could come from a plank, swivel both heels off to the right. So your weight bearing through that right arm, left arm up. You could be on your forearm here if you want to take the pressure off the wrist. Staying with this, or maybe you balance with that left knee in the tree pose. Or having to work hard for this, but feel that how if you have the hand down, the palm has this big arch underneath it. So you're really trying to find the purchase here. It's a hand balance. All right, we'll lower down, lower to hands and knees, child's or puppy pose, or sit back or stand on your knees. You could shake out those wrists or roll the shoulders. That is a lot of pressure through one hand. So remember, you could do a forearm side plank as well. So the other side would look like right leg back, left shin pivoting off the mat, right foot is flat on the mat, right arm up. So it's that knee down side plank, left knee down, or front plank, swivel the heels to the left, right arm up. You could stay here because maybe it's enough, or maybe you bring that right foot up on the inner leg. So we are falling over tree. Feel all the work in that left palm, shoulder blade. Breathe. All right, hand, knees down. Child's or puppy, sit back. Shake out those wrists, roll the shoulders. Coming onto our belly here. I'm going to pad my pelvic bones here, the pubic bones, and these front hip, air quote, bones are actually part of your pelvis and not your hip at all. And quad stretch. So bring one arm forward, bend the other knee, reach back with that same side hand for the foot or the ankle. If you struggle to get it, or it's painful to get it, or you cramp while you get it, you could lasso that foot with the strap. Whatever you have holding the foot, think about lengthening that kneecap towards the foot of the mat. Take a few breaths. Letting this go. And we're switching to the other side. Letting that head rest here. Lengthen the kneecap towards the foot of the mat. Letting the foot go. I'm setting up for a locust pose here. If you have some arthritis or stenosis in your low back, you might do the same thing with a pillow under your low belly, or an alternative would be coming into a bridge pose. So you turn over here. So we'll start with the hands down by your sides, palms up. This is same lengthening here of the spine, tailbone towards the feet, but now this is to be protective of the lumbar spine. Tailbone towards the feet, pubic bone pressing into the floor. Inhale, lift the head, chest. Lift the arms and actively reach the arms towards the feet. Option to raise the legs, gazes down and forward. We're going to do reps. So we're lowering down on the exhale. Tailbone lengthen towards the feet the whole time. Inhale, lift, reach, neck long. Exhale, lower. Let's do 2 more. Here, we're kind of balancing on our abdomen. And you might even pause in the next one, or just keep going. Pause and breathe. If you're able to get that breath in, you'll feel yourself balancing, kind of rocking forward and back. That's the diaphragm moving down and back up. Exhale, lower down. Arms forward, rest the head. Bend the knees, rock the legs side to side. Turning onto your back. Oops. And bend the knees. Let's cross the left thigh over the right. Pull the legs in towards you, holding shins or backs of thighs, or perhaps you use the strap here behind the legs to hold. Relax the shoulders, muscles of the neck and the jaw, muscles around the eyes. Keep the legs crossed, but let go with your arms and bring the arms out to the sides. We'll drop the legs over to the right for the spinal twist. Now this is a little too much for me with my legs crossed here. You could uncross the legs or slide a prop like a block underneath the legs, gaze up or head turned away. Untangling the legs, use your abs to pull the knees up through center, maybe hugging them in here or rocking a little, and then it'll be right thigh over left. Pull the legs towards you, hold shins, backs of thighs, use a strap, but check in, make sure you're relaxing the shoulders, the neck, the jaw, maybe gently turning the head. So you might feel that stretch in the right buttocks, outer hip here. And you could always changes to the ankle over knee stretch as well. Legs crossed, but arms out. We drop the legs over to the left. Options, this may be great right here. You don't need anything else, or slide a block under the legs, or untangle them instead. Gaze straight up towards the ceiling or head turned away. Untangling the legs here, pulling the knees up through center, maybe hugging in or rocking a little bit. Maybe you come into a happy baby. If there's another stretch or movement or pose that you'd like to do before the end of your practice, now's a good time to add it in. We'll lower the feet down here, thinking about how you'd like to set yourself up for your Shavasana. Legs up the wall, legs on the chair. Maybe staying right where you are. You could cover up with a blanket or a sweater. Perhaps you close your eyes or keeping them open with just a soft focus to your gaze. Take an inhale through the nose. Let out an open-mouthed, audible sigh. And another like that. Allowing the body to rest right here. Letting the breath go. Resting for the next few minutes. There's always the invitation to lengthen your shavasana, your resting part of the practice here. So don't feel like you need to move on, but if you are ready, start to deepen your breath. So taking bigger, deeper breaths. Maybe wiggle the fingers, the toes, turning the head, circling the wrists, the ankles. Bigger stretch might feel good. Legs could be out, arms overhead. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, let it go. We'll bend the knees. Roll to your side. Pausing here for a moment. Appreciating your body, even when it doesn't work in all the ways you'd like it to. Your breath as it supports you. Your health as it sustains you. And your yoga practice to keep it all together. Pressing up to a seat. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice, your energy. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.